The date was December 21st, 1969, and the location was Tulane Stadium in New Orleans, Louisiana. The temperature was 64 degrees, but the on-the-field temperatures made it much hotter than that. Number 71 defensive tackle Dick Arndt appeared to receive the most punishment in this Week 14 brawl between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New Orleans Saints. The Saints were favored to win this game by 7 points, and the first overall draft pick in the 1970 draft was at stake between the Steelers and the Chicago Bears. Stick around until the end to see how the Steelers were able to draft future Hall of Fame quarterback and four-time Super Bowl champion Terry Bradshaw. The Saints defense gave up the third most passing yards and the second most passing touchdowns with the least number of interceptions, yet Pittsburgh ran more than they passed in this game and could only muster 141 net passing yards. Steelers head coach Chuck Noll was in the first year in that capacity, and the Steelers had plenty of problems. They were next to last in the NFL in points scored and last in points surrendered with a 13-point per game differential. Billy Kilmer started all 14 games, despite the fact that the Saints lost their first 6 games by a total of 62 points, and only directing them to one game within that span of more than 17 points scored. Another storyline to this game was whether or not wide receiver Dan Abramowitz of the Saints would be the NFL's receiving leader, as his 65 catches entering the game was tied for the most. He made first-team All-Pro with 8-year career highs in catches, yards, and touchdowns. The Steelers' Roy Jefferson was also tied with 65 catches, and he too set career highs in catches and yards. His 1,079 receiving yards led the NFL, and he too made first-team All-Pro. Both players were the big guns for their respective teams, as Abramowitz had 36 more catches than the Saints' number 2 receiver, and Jefferson had an astounding 47 more than the Steelers' number 2 receiver. A little later, you'll find out who led the NFL for 1969. Saints kicker Tom Dempsey was a rookie in 1969 and made the Pro Bowl team for the only time in his 11-year career. He kicked the NFL's longest field goal each year from 1969 through 1971, including a then-record 63-yarder in 1970. Don McCall started the game out with a bang when he returned the opening kickoff 42 yards. McCall was traded from the Saints to the Steelers on September 4, 1969, and then traded back to the Saints in 1970. Dick Shiner hit Dick Hook for a good gain to get things started. From the Saints' 41-yard line, Shiner executed the same play except to the other side of the field, and 26 yards later the Steelers were on the 15-yard line. From 8 yards out, 6'3", 230-pound fullback Earl Groh skipped into the end zone. On the replay, check out Steelers guards executing the long-lost art of cross-blocking. Groh was an NFL champion in 1962 for the Green Bay Packers when he was their first-round draft choice that year. Billy Kilmer felt the heat. The Steelers' 33 sacks were middle of the NFL's pack, but they packed a punch. When Shiner got the ball back, he connected with John Henderson for a 45-yard gainer to the 16-yard line. From there, Earl Groh had a walk in the park for his second touchdown. Down by 14 points early, Kilmer threw a couple of completions to number 46, Dan Abramowitz. Switching to a running play ended in futility, as rookie defensive tackle number 75 Joe Green blew up the play. So it was back to the air for battling Billy, and the results were not good. draw play to Tony Baker didn't work as designed, but it worked. He led the NFL with a 4.8 yards per carry and made the Pro Bowl team. He was undrafted and signed as a free agent in 1968. Right defensive end Ben McGee made the Pro Bowl squad in 1968, and here he pounced on Kilmer for the second of 5 team sacks on the day. Billy bit the dust again, then decided that calling rollouts was the smart thing to do against Pittsburgh's formidable front four. It worked. He hit Abramowitz for 39 yards to the Steelers' 48-yard line. Kilmer was feeling it. He hooked up with Al Dodd for 38 more yards. A quick look-in pass to Abramowitz for 7 yards nudged the Saints to the 3-yard line. Slender 6'3", 210-pound tight end Ray Pogue caught this aerial for 6 points, and the Saints were on the board, down 14-7. A fake handoff to running back Don Shai, who held off Mean Joe Green, made this play-action pass work to perfection. Later in the quarter, the Saints got another score on a drive that mixed the pass with the run. The Steelers' offense continued to sputter, as the Saints now had momentum. Bobby Walden punted 14 years in the NFL, but his only Pro Bowl season was 1969. Al Dodd nearly took this punt the entire distance to the goal line. Despite having great starting field position and this reception by Dave Parks, the Saints shot themselves in the foot when a costly holding penalty negated this 18-yard reception by Al Dodd and put the Saints out of field goal range. The start of the second half was just as difficult as the first half in terms of the Saints running the football. Then Kilmer felt the heat of an on-rushing Ben McGee and badly misfired on second down. On third down, Kilmer's pass bounced off the fingertips of Pogue, but Ben McGee was called for a 15-yard roughing the passer penalty that kept the drive alive. Andy Livingston was a Pro Bowl running back in 1969 when he completed 3 of 4 passes with 1 touchdown and 1 interception. Ray Pogue was the recipient of this pass. Although tight end Dave Parks didn't put up the numbers close to the ones that he did while with the 49ers, he was still a quality receiver. He was all alone for a 14-yard gain. On a third down and 13 to go play, Kilmer dropped back 8 yards and fired to Dave Parks, who picked up the first down despite being mugged by 4 Steelers. On first down, Al Dodd ran a quick square-out pass pattern and was promptly planted by number 44, Lee Calland, who was an undrafted free agent who played 10 NFL seasons. Despite being a burly 235 pounds, Andy Livingston was unable to crack the stout Steelers' rushing defense. A quick toss to Abramowitz picked up a big first down and expanded his reception total over the Steelers' Roy Jefferson. On the 18-yard line, the 6-foot Kilmer adjusted his passing arc in order to get his pass over the hands of the 6'4" on-rushing Joe Green, which caused an incomplete pass. On the following play, an all-out blitz engulfed Kilmer. Jerry Hillebrand hit Kilmer, and middle linebacker Ray May ran 67 yards for an apparent touchdown. This was May's last game as a Steeler. He was traded to the Colts for running back Preston Pearson and defensive back O.C. Austin after the season concluded. Pittsburgh committed a holding penalty, the touchdown was nullified, and the Saints had the ball at the 13-yard line. On the very next play, Kilmer hit Pogue for a touchdown, and the Saints led 17-14. On their first play after the kickoff, the Steelers stunned the Saints with the end around to J.R. Wilburn that netted 35 yards to the Saints' 31-yard line. Wilburn again picked up a first down on a short pass and high hurdle. The normally sure-handed Dick Hoke fumbled, and Dave Witzel kicked the ball, and the Saints were penalized 15 yards for the infraction. This is a penalty type that I have rarely seen called. Pittsburgh now had a first down and 10 at the Saints' 15-yard line. John Henderson bailed out Dick Shiner on this low-and-away toss. Wide receiver Roy Jefferson had a quiet game up to this point. Second-year cornerback Gene Howard was a primary reason for that. Right defensive end Doug Atkins stuffed Earl Groh on this play. The future Hall of Famer played in this, his last NFL game. He was 6'8" and 275 pounds of meanness, who played 17 NFL seasons, the last 3 with the Saints. He was drafted out of the University of Tennessee in 1953 by the Cleveland Browns, but his best seasons were played with the monsters of the Midway, the Chicago Bears, from 1955 through 1966. John Facenda of NFL Films described Atkins like a storm rolling over a Kansas farmhouse. He came from all directions, and all there was to do was to tie down what you could and hope he didn't take the roof. On 4th and 2, Shiner spun and pitched to Groh, who barreled his way into the end zone for his 3rd touchdown on the day. Big Tony Baker gained 10 yards on this run and finished with a modest 38 in this contest. Joe Green was a fantastic draft pick, as he won the Defensive Rookie of the Year award for plays like this. Lee Calland intercepted and set the Steelers' offense up in fine field position. Roy Jefferson finally got his hands on a football and juked 19 yards with it. He only caught 2 passes while Abramowitz caught 8 and won the NFL receiving crown. The drive stalled, and kicker Gene Mingo connected on an 11-yard field goal to make the score 24-17 Steelers. Mingo didn't attend college, but wrote the Broncos, was invited to a tryout, and made the Broncos' inaugural regular season roster in 1960. His 76-yard punt return for a touchdown was the first in AFL history, and he is the first black kicker in professional football history. A new quarterback was in for the New Orleans Saints, rookie Ed Hargett. Calm as can be, he struck early when he hit Dave Parks for 25 yards. He was also introduced to number 75, Mean Joe Green. Hargett used his head when he rolled out and away from Green on the next play. Abramowitz came up with another fine catch. He hauled in 129 yards of passes on this day. J.R. Wilburn's second rushing attempt lost 6 yards. The Steelers were forced to punt from their own end zone, and the Saints started their drive with excellent field position on the Steelers' 39-yard line. Andy Livingston and Tony Baker pounded away at the Steelers' defense with their combined 465 pounds. They were big, powerful running backs who would wear a defense down and help drain the clock. If the Saints hadn't scored a touchdown to win this game, NFL history would have been altered immensely. The Chicago Bears would have had the sole worst record with 1 win and 13 losses, and they would have undoubtedly drafted quarterback Terry Bradshaw from Louisiana Tech, number 1 overall. However, the Steelers had the same one-loss record, and since there were no tiebreakers in place, the NFL decided that the first overall draft pick rights would be decided by a flip of a coin. To milk it for all it was worth, they made a ceremony out of it at the Super Bowl. Lady Luck landed in Pittsburgh's favor, and they drafted Bradshaw. But what did the Bears do with their number 2 overall draft pick? They traded it to their division rival Green Bay Packers for what turned out to be a supposed bag of magical beans. Linebacker Leroy Caffey played 1 year for the Bears, then was traded to Dallas. Center Bob Hyland played 1 year with Chicago, then was traded to the Giants. Running back Elijah Pitts was waived and never played for the Bears. The Packers selected defensive tackle Mike McCoy with the 2nd overall draft pick, and he was a fine contributor for them. Please click the like button, and thank you for watching.